Hello, everyone. I'm DearMYRTLE, your friend in genealogy, but this channel's all about crafting journals to tell one ancestral story or another with an accompanying item, and they go together in an old steamer trunk that I received for Christmas. And the whole purpose is to share these stories with my children and grandchildren. So let me first show you the object, and then we'll go through the journal that describes it. Now, this is a wooden box that I received. I told my paper crafting people about it. Chocolates came in this, and the company name started with the letter B, which happens to be my mother's of a given name initial, Barbara. What a great thing when you consider I was having trouble trying to figure out how on earth to use this item and put it in my trunk without it jabbing. I mean, ouch. I just poked myself without it jabbing anything else in the trunk or hurting the silk lining of the drawers. So that's the item. And now you're going to find out more about this. Now, the cover I made specifically with a photo of my mother from she says she was about 19 to 21 years of age, and it was on Mother's Day. So let me zoom in so you can see her. There you go. This is a wooden cutout, fancy wooden cutout that I got from Hobby Lobby. And remember, my paper crafting friends, I used my distress ink just on the tips or the edges of these blossoms so it didn't look so white and manufactured. All right, so we're going to open this up just as my grandchildren would if they could come visit me. But we're still experiencing COVID in our community, and I'm pretty susceptible. So, yeah, we're having to isolate. So this would be how my grandchildren would be exploring it. They'd open it up. They could read Barbara Janine Froman. I know it spells Jeannie, but she always wanted to pronounce it Janine. Born September 16th, 1928 in Seattle, King County, Washington. Her parents were Lowell S. Froman and Frances Irene Goring Froman. She married first Glenn S. Player, and then my brother Mike and Sharon and I were the children from that marriage. From the second marriage, she married Richard James Tatum Sr. and had Rich, Dave, and Nancy. And then I put that she died on 14 December 2014. Actually, it's the 9th. Well, that shows you that even genealogists can make an error. All right, I better correct that. And it was in Idaho Falls, Idaho. This is a little tuck spot, and you can see this poking out. This is a picture of my brother Mike, my mother, and me. And on the back, it's explains the cover image and who this is on the reverse side of this little item there, this little journal card. Okay, so we turn the page. Oh, interesting layout. 2 flower arrangements. One is asymmetrical, one is triangular. And a riddle for my grandchildren. When is a frog not an amphibian, but it still lives in water? They might get a clue from this layout. If you open it up, when it's a flower arrangement frog, and there's a view of it. You could put a bunch of flowers in a vase, or as Mr. Myrt was teasing me about last night, but you cannot make things hold up and stand up without using a frog to hold them in place. My mother would just give me flowers and say, okay, make a triangular arrangement for the dining room table. Or if it was on the buffet, it only had to look good on the front side because the buffet's against the wall. And I just figured it out because at least I knew what a triangle was. But I digress. Okay. Now here's something interesting. there's a little card here about how to plant tulips. Now, my mother taught me that when you plant tulips, you have to dig down 7 inches, pour some fish oil solution. We were from the Pacific Northwest, and that you plant the bulbs with the pointed side up. And on the back, I have how you should stagger the bulbs when you plant them. I would have planted them along in a single line along the edge of the garden, which is what that curly line is. But actually, it looks better if you clump them together in a staggered format like that. So that's something that my mother did for me. Now, at the time, we lived in this house when she taught me how to do this. We lived in this house in Old Farm at 6925 Old Stage Road, and Mother was too pregnant with my brother David to plant the tulip bulbs. And you plant them in the fall, and they come up in the spring after the crocus and the hyacinths have done their thing. So this would be mid to late spring that you would see the tulips. So she's standing over me and kind of yelling at me, let's put it that way, and getting me to stagger the bulbs. She couldn't even lay them out where she wanted them. And who should drive up? Actually, ride up in his bicycle, but my boyfriend. It was very embarrassing to have your mother be a little bit more than unkind, yelling at you about how to do something with your boyfriend there. But I planted them. But I have told this story several times. The next spring, when those red Darwin tulips came up, I mean, I can still remember the name on the package because I looked at it a lot through my tears. When they came up, I was amazed because they're just ugly brown little tubers, and how absolutely beautiful they are. And I know because my mother has taught me about flowers and things that those are little white-faced pansies with purple accents. All right. Now this is an example of writing on a pattern background. I wrote, so my mother may have had a prickly personality, but she did teach me to grow sweet peas, zinnias, roses, tulips, marigolds, chrysanthemums, which I know how to say and have since, oh, those days. It takes my breath away because I'm allergic to them. I also learned about pansies, which you know, crocus, daffodil, hyacinths, camellias, rhododendrons, crabapple trees, split-leaf red maple trees, and many more plants and shrubs. To the point that I love to have great variety of plant and shrubs and tree specimens in my yard. And if you came to our house, you would see that that's true. Okay, here we have our little tab that says open. So I will open it and explain to my grandchildren who will watch this video that this is a 1930 census record. It's the population schedule, not the agricultural schedule. It shows my mother Barbara, the very last line here, was 1 6/12 years of age, which means she was 18 months old. And her dad was Lowell Froman, and Frances was the mom. I know that from other documents. This was the first time I'm introducing my grandchildren to documents that are typically used by genealogists. All right, so all I'm going to need to do is tie all these ribbons, and then I will go to my office upstairs, and we'll have the ceremonial placement of the frog.
We will now have the ceremonial placing of the very securely protected frog for flower arranging and the accompanying journal that I wrote this week about my mother Barbara and her influence with me in gardening. There we go. As long as the bear doesn't eat me, we're good. All right, folks, there's nothing left to say but happy family tree climbing and journaling and gardening. That's a wrap.